Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard. Welcome to Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on our podcast, like we always do. His name is Evan, and he is with the North Carolina Forward Party. So we're going to talk to him about his exciting party and the exciting things he's doing. So welcome to the podcast, Evan.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. If we could get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Sure. My name is Evan. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been here for 5 years. Worked as an engineer for my day job. I spent a lot of time in my off time as a volunteer for the North Carolina Forward Party. I've been involved in politics for most of my life in some capacity or another, and this is the first time I've really dedicated my time to the party movement and building something different from what the Republicans and the Democrats usually offer.
Excellent. That's what we love to hear. So what type of engineering is it?
Specifically, I am a corrosion engineer. I spend a lot of my time helping companies deal with corrosion problems, providing solutions, trying to understand what happened, that sort of work.
Okay. So it sounds like you have a focused niche that you're doing.
Yes. I professionally get paid to play in dirt and be outside. So it's an excellent job.
Cool. So what led you to the Forward Party in particular? What path did you say you get there? You said that you recently focused on volunteering. So what made you go from where you were before to the Forward Party now?
For me, it's been a journey of losing faith in the Democratic Party. I've been, a lifelong Democrat. I voted for Democrats. I voted for Republicans sometimes, but earlier in my life. And I've just been fed up with just how politics has gone on the left, trying, generally ignoring issues that will help everybody, and trying to focus on things that have no chance of passing in today's climate. And then as to why I decided to work, and spend my time on the Forward Party, it really has to do with two things. One, I was originally Yang Gang. I was always pro Andrew Yang and his run for presidency. But more importantly, it's that the ability to talk past each other always astounds me between Democrats and Republicans. And the issue I've seen from the beginning has been an inability to be able to speak to each other and really make your case as to what you want. My goal, and the reason why I joined the Forward Party, is when I was introduced to it, I talked to somebody who could steelman the position on half a dozen issues on both sides of the line. I couldn't do that, and it really encouraged me to join up with the movement and really make my, spread my understanding and realize that a lot more people are closer to the center than they really think. And you have to break that narrative that, there's only the Democrats or only the Republicans that have all the good ideas. And really, it's a mix of both, and a mix of ideas that no one even considers, because we kind of divided our battle lines and decided a pro and con on every issue.
Okay. So it sounds like you would describe the Forward Party as a centrist party. Is that correct?
Yeah. More or less.
Okay. So would you please tell us more specifically what the Forward Party is about, its philosophy, and its platform?
Sure. So, platform is very brief. There's only three things we require of any candidate that's aligned with or endorsed or is a member of the Forward Party.
Oh my.
Nonpartisan primaries, ranked choice voting, and nonpartisan primaries, ranked choice voting, and independent redistricting. One of the honestly the most important one. And the reason why we're focused around that is because we have half a dozen small party movements throughout the U.S. There's a lot of people who would identify as being center left or center right, and a lot of people who are on the extremes of both the left and the right. And our goal even though we label ourselves as a centrist party, it's that when it comes to the ideas necessary to make our country a better place, the good ideas don't come from just one side. So we're centrist in the fact that we want to take ideas from both sides of the aisle, and there are better solutions out there. The research exists, and we want our candidates to make the case for us as to what the best position should be. If you go out and poll people on most issues, it's usually a split that's more than 60% or 70% one way or another. And it's about making sure that people understand you don't have to vote pro or con on issues like whether to allow charter schools or not. If most parents are pro charter schools, shouldn't even have that debate. It's already there. Why are we, reinventing the wheel every election cycle on something that most people already agree with?
Okay. So I remember listening to the podcast of the Salmon Party, which was one of the groups that merged to form your party, as I recall. And they would say similar to what you said, that sometimes the ideas come from the left and sometimes the ideas come from the right. So it's not centrist in the sense that in every issue you're trying to have some theoretical middle value, but instead you're looking at every issue, because some issues the leftist people might have the best ideas. So on maybe 5 issues it'll be leftist, and then 10 issues it'll be conservative, and then there might be one that has libertarian, and then one for green. So would you say that's the correct way to describe the Forward Party?
Yeah, and I'll go one step further. It all comes down to don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And when it comes to how politics is run in the last 20 years, there is noticeable opposition on either side of the aisle when your own side proposes something that doesn't go far enough. And because of that, I don't know, when was the last time Congress has really done anything useful? Doesn't seem like anything gets passed other than a budget bill that's already 6 months behind and has threatened to shut down the government. We have to realize that we cannot make our democracy work without any sort of consensus building. And part of the focus of the North Carolina Forward Party, and the reason why we're so, bent on making sure that there's electoral reforms, is we want to encourage people to be in a place of making consensus politics as opposed to the fear-mongering that goes on every election cycle.
Sure. So given the 3 reforms that your party focuses on and centers its convictions on, how does North Carolina in particular fare in those regards? Are all those not implemented in North Carolina, or 1 or 2 or 3 of them implemented? How does that work?
So unfortunately, North Carolina is one of the worst offenders when it comes to gerrymandering. So unfortunately, we are far on the opposite side of that. But the one bit of good news is that we have a system that allows unaffiliated voters to vote in both Republican or Democrat primaries. The only issue is you can only vote in one, and you can't vote for for the other parties if you want to kind of split your ticket on who you're voting for. And that's something that's it's better than most states, but it's something that could be improved upon by allowing you to vote on a primary that includes every candidate that wants to run, and narrowing that crowd down to five of the top candidates. Now, when it comes to ranked choice voting, there are some municipalities and some cities that have tried ranked choice voting in the past, or have pushed for ranked choice voting. It has happened with mixed results, and unfortunately in the case of Hendersonville, a city out of western North Carolina, there was a ranked choice voting in place for several city elections, and then it was removed. And unfortunately, we have to work to get places like that to have ranked choice voting again. Okay,
that sounds good. So would you advise people to vote if their state allows it, to vote in primaries that they're not affiliated with? You think that sounds like you support that reform? So would you advise people like me in Texas and this election I didn't know what to do because we had an election and I want to vote every election. So I went to that and all they had was a primary and then it was a Democratic primary. I didn't think I wanted to vote for that. So how would you advise people to do that? Do you think that's a good idea, or does it depend on the state?
I encourage people to be able to vote in their primaries because as of right now, it's roughly 10 or 20% of eligible voters end up voting in their primaries. And when you have such a small amount of people choosing your end candidates that end up in the general election, can we really say that we had a Democratic election on November 5th or November 2nd, whatever day Tuesday falls on? I would prefer that people have a say on all the candidates from the get-go and making nonpartisan primaries or open primaries in a way that most people can vote for a primary regardless of what their political affiliation is will help us get better candidates.
Okay. So open primaries is the ultimate goal. If it's not there in a given state, people should vote as in primaries as much as possible.
If possible. Sometimes it's restricted by what party affiliation you have. So if you're a Democrat, you can only vote for Democrats, or Republican, only vote for Republican. That's true here in North Carolina, and it's a big reason that unaffiliated voters are in most of the state because they want the freedom and choice to be able to vote for candidates in either the Democratic or the Republican primary. And frankly, a lot of the voters just don't feel comfortable listing themselves as a Democrat or a Republican any longer.
Sure. So with the North Carolina Forward Party, what is your official role?
Our role is primarily to try to get those election reforms passed in any way that we can. A big reason our platform is as limited as it is because we want our candidates and we want people to tell us what they want from politics. As I mentioned before, most people are generally on one side of an issue. A majority of voters, if they want a specific reform, we want them to encourage our candidates to take that position. But we also understand that a lot of people aren't willing to jump ship from the two major parties in order to take on our upstart, which is why we have a policy of aligning candidates with our cause. So we would say a forward Democrat or a forward Republican or even a forward independent like Shalane Etchison that's currently running for congressional seat U.S. House 9 out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. We want people to run under the forward banner, but we know along the way we want people who are center left or center right who belong to Democrats or Republicans to see us forward as about consensus building and about building counter electoral reforms and policies that will make America stronger. Sure.
So that sounds like fusion voting, where they can run under both. Is that the way it works in North Carolina, or is it if they don't want to become in forward party, you would endorse them as in their party that they're staying in? Is that the way you do it?
Correct.
Okay, I get it. And North Carolina doesn't have fusion voting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's something a few states like New York have. So that's one thing that some alternative parties do that we've talked about on this podcast and elsewhere, that if some people may not want to leave the two parties, but they still want to support alternative parties. So fusion voting is a good strategy, as well as your strategy too, as getting endorsements from people who are like-minded, yet they want to stay in their party for whatever reasons they may have. So that sounds like a good solution for that situation.
Yeah.
So how? Good. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. Go ahead. Sorry.
So how does the Forward Party in North Carolina in particular get its word out? How are you communicating this message to the potential candidates as well as the voters?
Each and every way we can, including this right now. Podcasts, interviews. We've been on some of the radio broadcasts here in North Carolina, been on some TV spots. We've participated in discussions, including one recently where third parties were all gathered in one spot to kind of talk about their own movements and what our goals are. There's a lot of energy that's brewing out there. People are not happy that we're about to go into another Trump versus Biden rematch.
Yeah.
We want different choices, and it really starts at a grassroots, local level. We have a lot of local, municipal, and statewide races that people don't participate in. We feel as people start participating in those kind of elections again, they'll see the kind of changes at the state level that we want at our federal level.
Okay. Sounds good. So when you do these interviews on these radio shows, are the hosts generally pleasant to deal with, or do they want to challenge you, or how have they gone?
It's been a range. We've gone on some hostile interviews, and we've gone on some softball interviews. It's been kind of all over the place, and each one is exciting and rewarding in its own way.
Oh, sure. That's a good attitude to have about it. Some people may not like those hostile interviews, so it's good that you're not afraid of doing those.
It's just have to build up a little bit of a thick skin and realize that the only way you're ever going to get people who disagree with you to see your perspective is to be able to reasonably talk to them, not ignore them, and not to treat them like they don't deserve your attention or your respect.
Sure. So when you're meeting voters in your area, what are they saying? Are they wanting to add anything to what you're doing, or are they in alignment with your message?
A lot of voters are, how do I say this? A lot of people are fed up with politics as usual, and they really want something different. Unfortunately, one of the realities of a centrist movement is that there's not very many radical centrists, bit of an oxymoron. And what we really see is people want something that will help them, kind of guide them to better candidates. And really what we try to do is we try to put out information for voters, for candidates that are running with a message of working across the aisle, of having a demonstrated record of having ideas that don't just toe the party line. It's a mixed approach, and really what we can do the best for people in North Carolina as we build our movement is provide information and help people understand who the best choices are in North Carolina, or at least who we feel are the best choices, I should say.
Sure. So do you reach out to the candidates, or do they reach out to you to get the endorsements, or is it some of both?
It's both. There's plenty of times that we've talked to people that have wanted our endorsement, and as we go on that conversation, either we or they decide that it's not appropriate for them. And there's been a lot of times where just out of nowhere we get a cold call, or we cold call someone, talk to a candidate, and we realize we want to work together. And the beauty of politics today is more and more people are waking up to that idea of just making it about democracy again and not about partisan bickering.
Sounds good. So, Evan, how can our audience support you and your party?
You can visit us at www.northcarolinaforwardparty.com. Sorry, it's a mouthful. Otherwise, you can find us as Forward NC Party on Facebook, Instagram, or on TikTok.
All right. Sounds good. So, Evan, we thank you for sharing your information about your party today. It sounds like it's a novel approach to politics. Sounds like your party has something original going for it. So we appreciate hearing all about that.
Great. Thank you for your time, Andrew.
I wish you all the best in your party and everything else you do in your personal and professional life.
Likewise. Have a good day, man.
Bye now.